Today, I'm going to introduce three interesting topics in the AP Psychology course so far. First, I'll talk about the classical conditioning. Second, I will mention the memory model. And finally, I will talk about the attention. The reason I liked the psychology course is because that it's really interesting and cool since there are a lot of things and concepts are perfectly connected to my personal life. Like after knowing these kind of concepts, I can finally figure out why I will have this behavior and why those people act that way. First, the classical conditioning. So, what is classical conditioning? Classical conditioning is forming an association with a naturally occurring stimulus, involves placing a neutral stimulus before a reflex or involuntary behavior. It's described by Ivan Pavlov. Okay, so what does that mean is that in this picture, we can see that the dog will drool when it sees foods and will not react when the bell rings in the second picture. And the third, during conditioning, is the dog will see the food and hear the bell rings at the same time. Fourth, after the conditioning, finally the dog will think that the food is there when they hear the bell ring. This is the most famous experience for classical conditioning. Okay, second, the memory model. So here is the multi-store memory model described by Atkinson and Schifrin in 1968. First, the outside stimulus is received by the sensory registers and stored for a really short time. So if you not pay attention to this memory, the memory will disappear quickly. But if you pay attention to this sensory inputs, it will move to the short-term memory. However, the short-term memory has only 20 to 30 seconds duration and 7 plus minus capacity, so the rehearsal process is necessary to make it into long-term memory. Using the rehearsal technique such as afterwards processing, which means you are trying to remember the things to keep encoding the information, and finally make it into long-term memory. And long-term memory has unlimited capacity and duration. And when you try to recall things from your long-term memory from your mind, a process called retrieval is needed. So finally, I will talk about the attention. Attention has two types, which the first one is selective attentions, and an example for this is cocktail party effect. People attend to mention their names in a loud or distracting environment. For example, if you're in the club or in a noisy place, some people call your name, you will react at the first place. And second, the inattention blindness is when attention is too focused on the visual, you will ignore or miss other parts. So the personal example is when kids is watching TV, since this actually happened in my childhood, so it's really memorable and interesting that I didn't know that was because of this inattention blindness. So when I was watching the TV and I am really focused on the visual things and the contents in there, and I miss my mother's call, my mother will blame me like, why did you listen to me? Every time you watch the TV, you will act this way. So now I know why. This is why I'm interested in the intention topic. Okay, so here's my resources. It's from College Board and my notes and those PPT in the Google Classroom. So thank you for this great opportunity. Thank you. Have a nice vacation.